Brandon, my friend, I appreciate you. How you doing today?
I'm good, man. How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm glad to have you on the podcast. Glad to be connected with you. So go ahead and this is Burn the Ship. This is Burn the Ship podcast. We talk to entrepreneurs about what they're doing within their business, how they are helping businesses, and really you have a pretty unique perspective on the e-commerce world. So that's why we're having you on today. But I appreciate you. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and your business?
Yeah, man. Well, I appreciate you guys having me on, obviously, and providing the opportunity. And obviously, my name is Brandon Cockrell. I'm the owner and I guess founder, so to speak, of Linchpin Sales Interactive, where really we are all things e-commerce, but we really focus on whatever comes from a sales and marketing standpoint, right? So everything from where a lot of our focus is, because we are a performance-based business, which is very unique in our space. So we work a lot like commission sales reps with our clients. So we really come in, act as their right hand team, just because there's so many moving parts to run a successful e-commerce brand. So everything from utilizing social media to search engines to find and acquire new audiences and consumers, making sure the website is converting at the highest levels possible, and then having really, really good back end processes that we develop with helping them nurture and get repeat customers, keep them
Sure.
coming back more, referring business. And, the ultimate goal is to help them wherever they are in their journey when they approach us, and help them scale up their e-commerce side of the business, whether that's all of their business, which some brands are, or if they have physical locations and they're looking to increase revenue online. So we really come in and look at it from a full A to Z solution, and really make sure that we are growing and scaling profitably, which is obviously important.
Sure. So what is the position that some of these companies are in when they come to you guys? Are they just starting their e-commerce brand? Have they been on that e-commerce train for a while or?
Yeah. So I mean, that's a great question. Obviously, it's all over the board. So we're a little unique. We look at the partnership as a whole, and really looking at it and taking a step back and looking at it from a long-term perspective, right? Like where are you at right now? Where are you looking to go? Does this make sense to partner where we feel confident that we can help you accomplish the goals that you want to get to, which in turn obviously is going to help us, mainly because we work on a performance basis. So, we have some brands that come to us and they don't even have a website built. And so we will create the website, build that up, and then help them start from that just starting from scratch level, from zero sales all the way up to wherever we're looking to take it, and continue adding on and diversifying platforms to help them continue to scale. That we've worked with brands that are brand new, so to speak. And then we have brands that have been in the game for a long time, and they've tried everything they could. They've tried a lot of different partners, have had nothing but negative experiences from their side of things, and which can just mean that they weren't getting the results that they were looking for. Not necessarily that any companies are not treating them right or anything like that, but they just weren't getting the experience. And sometimes that happens. But and they're spending, where a new brand may come in and they're only able to spend $1,500 a month in their marketing or paid ad campaigns or advertising. Some brands that are spending $50,000 to $100,000 a month on advertising, and they've been around for decades.
Sure.
So it really, it's all over the board. But we really look at it from a long-term partnership type perspective, and that's worked out well for us.
Sure. So take me back a little bit. Take me back in time a little bit. Tell me a little bit about where you learned and where you developed this background for sales and marketing.
Man, it's yeah, look, I've always been a competitive person. First of all, I played sports and soccer all the way through college, and once you kind of in that reign and you're not able to continue competing in sports the way you once were. It kind of naturally, I think that competitiveness never stops. And so sales out of college, which was late 2005, whenever I graduated, sales was just kind of that natural fit. I wanted to be able to make what I wanted to make and not really have limits out there. So I initially, but I knew I wasn't ready to do anything on my own, right? Like I wanted to go and work for other organizations to kind of get my feet wet. And so for the first 12 to 13 years of my career, I was working for majority of large corporations in sales. And the last 5 years, whenever I was working with the PGA Tour and the TPC network, so their properties division, I got a lot more involved in the marketing aspect as well as the sales, not meaning cold calling, because cold calling and kind of that traditional way of finding new opportunities was the way I cut my teeth, because that was the only way back in the late 2000s. There was no Facebook ads or digital aspect, right? So as we got in and I started really diving into the marketing side of stuff, I started to realize that there was so much of an opportunity out there. And that's kind of what piqued my interest. And then after about 10 years of doing it for others, I started really getting that itch and feeling like I was kind of ready to go off out on my own. It could really help businesses, primarily small businesses, with the experience I had, to help them have more success. And so that's whenever I naively put in my notice whenever I was working with the tour, and said, "Hey, I'm going out and starting something," and that was it. And then I jumped right in, just kind of right into the deep end. So it's been an interesting ride, but that's kind of how I've gotten up to this point. Was really just passionately looking for how you can make things more efficient, how you can get better results, how you can get in front of buyers and people that actually are interested in what it is you have to offer without having to go out and cold call and rely on networking events 24/7 and referrals and all of this stuff that is very hard to create that consistency and predictability, but also it's the scalability of it is very limited. And so that's kind of what allowed me to get into this, which now is obviously morphed into really working with e-commerce brands.
What was your role with the PGA Tour? Like, were you were interacting with businesses or?
Yeah, so I was actually working, so as part of the properties division, because the tour obviously has a lot of different divisions within it, and part of the TPC network is they own properties that they manage, and they normally are going to have professional tournaments out of those properties, but a big part of that is being able to drive corporate memberships, being able to make sure that you're driving revenue from a dues standpoint, and making sure people are hosting events outside of just that 1 or 2 weeks of that professional event coming there in order to sustain. So, my job, and I was over at TPC Sugarloaf here in Atlanta for those 5.5 years, was really being responsible for the large portion of the revenue lines from a dues standpoint. And they really brought me in. This was back in 2011. So we were still kind of in that rut from 2008, right? And my background was really in outbound sales, talking with corporations, C-level executives, and they were looking for somebody that could really come out and be able to do that, because the old methods of people just walking up to the property and wanting to pay tens of thousands of dollars to join had fallen off since 2008, because obviously a lot of that income and revenue and all of that people were making was kind of been hit pretty hard. So that's how that opportunity came about. And so I was really responsible mostly for just building a good network in the local area throughout Atlanta with large corporations, seeing how I could get them and entertaining more, having their events out at that property, but also to over personal. So anybody who was looking for a good property for their family or to entertain for their personal business was a good fit as well. So it was really identifying, creating a good network, and just going out there and just pitching what all it had to offer, right?
Sure.
And obviously the PGA Tour owning and operating was a huge talking point for a
Sure.
lot,
You a
especially
golfer?
if you're in that. Oh yeah, yeah. So that's kind of what piqued it as well. I mean, you put
Sure.
the passion behind golf and sales and marketing, and it was kind of a good fit there for a while. But
Sure.
I just felt like I could do more with what the experience I had, and really have a passion for helping local professionals, like business professionals and businesses, being able to get to where they want to go with their business. And a lot of times it's that lack of having good sales and marketing,
For sure.
and being able to do that. So that's really kind of what sparked, um,
Sure.
kind of started my own thing.
Tell me this. I've asked this question a couple of other times on the podcast as well, but how do you feel that um, your sports career like plays? Did it help you kind of bode well to be a good salesman?
Yeah, well, I think, the sales is so much more, and this is, the misconception. I think a lot, like people put so much pressure on the term salesperson. Sales is really a team sport, first and foremost. I think that if you look and really analyze the top sales reps, maybe at an organization or maybe as a whole, you're going to find that they do a lot of quarterbacking. It's not about them necessarily. It's about how can they go identify what that pain point is for somebody, really, really be able to ask the right questions to understand what a pain point is or what that problem is. And then who do they need to connect within their organization, or maybe it's not their organization. Maybe they are consultant or whatever it may be, coach, whatever it may be. How can they connect the right people that can help solve that pain point or solve that problem? So you do a lot of quarterbacking. You got to be able to talk to a lot of different people in a lot of different ways and bring them all together and then have productive conversations. So the team aspect of sports obviously is a big part of that. I think naturally just the competitiveness of sports is, and that's going to vary from person to person, but just that, and you probably have heard this from everybody, like that competitive spirit. If you really peel back the layers, that competitive spirit's what's driving you every single day, and you've got to be able to have that to keep pushing forward, because it's not always rainbow and sunshine. It's not always going to be, you're going to get beat down a lot. One of the biggest phrases that I heard that's always stuck with me whenever I think about sales, and an organization I was with, but I heard, because we were getting a base salary at that time, it was very small, but then you've got commissions on top of that. And was said that, we pay you to hear no. Yes is just a bonus. And if you really start thinking, especially if you're not just solely on commissions, but if you think about that, it made so much sense to me at that time, is that sales is all about just getting past enough no's to get that yes. And that's a very, very hard place to be sometimes. And if you don't have that competitive spirit, that drive just to keep going, and also have the team and have people around you that support you during that, it's going to be tough to make it, at least hit the goals that you're looking to hit. So I think it has a huge part to play in it. There's some stuff that you just kind of naturally have inside of you that I think helps that led you to play sports in the first place. That competition, that competitive spirit. One reason why I love golf, I can still compete at the mid 30s where I'm at right
Sure.
now, where soccer I've kind of had to let go of, just can't run as fast anymore as the younger guys. But, it's, I definitely think it has a lot to do with it for those reasons, for sure.
Sure. Sure. Where did your brand come from? like your Linchpin sales, where did you, what was the brainchild of that?
Well, whatever you're thinking about starting your own business and everything, I mean, I think picking a name is kind of an exciting part before you kind of go out there. And there's a lot of different, there's a lot of different things that go through your head. One, though, the linchpinsales.com was available. So, the URL was there. And so
It
that
matters.
helped a little bit with that, with narrowing down what I was looking for and thinking about. But the whole premise behind the name Linchpin, and it really comes from a Seth Godin book called Linchpin, that I had the opportunity to obviously read and understand kind of what he meant by the definition of linchpin, and what I foresaw my business wanting to be, and now the team, buying into it as part of it, is I wanted to be that missing link to a business that if they took out, and essentially that's what the definition of linchpin is from a professional business standpoint, at least in my opinion, the way that Seth Godin writes about it and all that, is that missing part of your organization, that person, thing, whatever it may be, that if you took it away, immediately things would start to either crumble, or you would be missing that key part. They are such an important piece of your success that they are the linchpin. Because if you think of even a linchpin tool, or that holds umbrellas together or trailers together and all that, if you take it out, they're going to fall apart, right? Like that's what that is. From a professional or business setting, that's kind of the way that I envision it. And so Linchpin came about for that main reason, is I always wanted to be that missing part of organizations where we were that important to them. We could come in and help them get to where they wanted to go and be that valuable of an asset to our partners and our clients. And that's really kind of how it came about. And it's pretty cool now, 5 years later, to hear people, whether it's a testimony or talking to clients or partners, and just kind of talking to you and not necessarily going through it. They just call you Linchpin and refer to you that way. It's kind of a cool thing. But that's how it came about. Nothing crazy, just kind of trying to figure out what you wanted to be and putting something around that.
Well, I like that definition. It makes a lot of sense, especially with what you guys do in your business, because you're trying to be that part of the business that's going to make everything kind of, the wheel turn, but in
Exactly.
every business that you guys sign up, you've got a different role, like there's a different bottleneck in each of those businesses.
100%.
Like you're solving a different problem for each of those business, which I think is very, very unique. How did you get your first client?
Man, well, I mean that's an interesting story as well. So whenever I started the business, it wasn't it wasn't anything to do with e-commerce, believe it or not. It was, look, it was actually starting off as something that I was foreseeing become very relevant to the small business world, which was the part-time sales management opportunity, somewhat like a partial CFO or part-time CMO or whatever it is, CTO. Like there's partial professionals now for small businesses because they can't afford a full-time person, nor do they need one.
Right.
But I always felt like there was organizations, they would bring salespeople in as they're starting to grow, but obviously the owner doesn't have time to sit there and train them and help them close more or be able to get more doors. And knowing that my background was a lot in sales, my role at that point and what I was envisioning was that I would help bridge that gap between the owner and their sales reps and help them come up with processes and help them close and coach them on how to obviously be better at selling. So it actually came about, believe it or not, the very first client, and it was more towards that. And I was kind of naive and I quit the job. My job, it was, my last day, I think, was like August 15th on the dot whenever I stopped. And and I forgot 2016. Yeah. And so, within the first 30 days, I had signed on a client where I was going to be doing some part-time sales management type opportunities. At the time there, I remember thinking I was going for a run after I'd signed that on, and I had another one already in the hopper. And I'm like, man, this is going to be incredible. Like, I'm already signing on some clients, doing this, doing that. Needless to say, it didn't last very long. I didn't have the right things in place, and quite honestly, I didn't know what I didn't know. But it was very eye-opening, because what it did is allowed me to transition more towards digital. Because what I started to see is that while there is a need for part-time sales management, what I really saw was there was even more of a need for more quality opportunities to come in the door. And it was more from a lead standpoint, an opportunity standpoint. And as I started to see that, I said, well, if there, with technology and digital and social and all these opportunities out there, right? Like, there's so much opportunity to do more, to warm somebody up and get them to come to you already ready to go with about 80% of the sales already done. So that then that salesperson, all they need to do is help that person come up with the best decision at that point. And so that's quickly, after about probably 30 or 45 days of working with that very first client, I realized that the shift to more focused on the acquisition part was what needed to be done. It was the way the market's going. It's where the opportunity is, which kind of started the really focusing on the inbound opportunities from the digital space, which obviously has morphed into not just doing lead gen opportunities, what we refer to as lead generation, and building brands and getting people warmed up to then buy from a potential service related or local business, or actually visit that business, but obviously transitioned quickly to really focusing with e-commerce brands, because that's just naturally how our team really got systematic and really we're set up for that type of
Sure.
business. So we've really focused over the last 18, 24 months of e-commerce brands, and starting to get back a little bit more to the lead gen side of stuff, with adding some more team members on that are focused in that arena. But that's it. I know that was a long-winded answer, but that's how we got the first client. And that client came from me posting something on my personal Facebook page about the business and what I was going to be doing, and somebody contacting me from that and saying, hey, I think my business may need this. We've been talking about needing something like this. And it just sparked that meeting, which got me in the door, obviously, and was able to do the rest from there. But sure. So yeah, that's literally how I got it. Didn't last that long, but it was extremely eye-opening and led to where we are today.
And what is the lineage of a client for you now? So if you take a client on board and you guys are doing some marketing work, some advertising work, you're really addressing the top of that funnel and how much traffic or volume is going through that website. Well, let's say that you make the strides there that you want to make. Let's say that your click funnel is good and that you're converting at the rate that you want to convert at now, post the kind of marketing audit that you guys kind of do and make the changes that you guys make. Do you guys, how does that work? Does that, once that client is set up, are they no longer a client of you guys? Are you guys staying on and kind of holding their hand throughout the process, or is it constantly changing? Is there always work to be done? How does that work?
Yeah. So it's a process, man. It's not a set it and forget it, unfortunately. I wish it was. A lot of time, a lot of things that you hear out there in the marketplace can lead you to believe that. It's just not, especially if you're looking to scale. If you're happy with where you're at, let's say you're a real estate professional, insurance agent, or whatever it is. If you're happy with where you're at, you don't want to add on to your team, you're not looking to scale, and you're looking to just make sure you stay in the know, there's a lot of stuff that you can just do on your own. You're going to be okay, because your job is just to stay in the forefront of your audience and make sure you stay top of mind when those things pop up. If you're looking to scale, if you're looking to add on salespeople, if you're looking to add on revenue, if you're looking to scale your e-commerce brand, you have to constantly be refining, be optimizing, be creating new content, new strategies, new campaigns. And so it's not just a kind of a set it and forget it. It's, we will get you set up, and, part of that initial process is getting you set up, making sure your website's ready to convert, make sure that, we've got the right creative and platforms and ad campaigns that we're going to start running, the right audiences. And we do a lot of testing within the first couple of weeks with all of our, every brand we bring on. And then, at that point, once you start driving traffic and identifying where the bottlenecks are, because you really don't know. We have a lot of people, and a lot of times where people want me to tell them just by looking at their website what they need to do to make it attract and convert at higher levels. And I'm like, hell, I don't know. Like, we don't know until we start. I can give you guesses. I can tell you to change this button to red, and who knows? But until we actually start driving quality traffic to it, we don't know what the market wants and what the market doesn't want. Your website may be great as is, you just haven't been running the right traffic. So let's really focus on the strategy as a whole, where we want to get to, what we want to focus on and how we get there, but let's do it strategically. So we're not just throwing thousands of dollars at the wall, seeing what sticks, and coming back 30 days later and say, well, this didn't get you don't need all of that. We can test within a couple of weeks, identify audiences and identify quality audiences, quality creative, making sure they're taking the right actions. Then you can start looking at the stats on your website, see where they're falling off, which may come in the next 60 days, and then make sure we're ramping that up, making those changes, adding on plugins or integrations. And then once we're starting to get that website converting, now we've got to focus on how do we get them coming back more often? How do we get them sharing the brand? How do we get them providing us with opportunities to naturally drive more customers through user-generated content or testimonials, and email campaigns and text campaigns and follow-ups and nurture sequences? And then, because that's part of that overall revenue. Ultimately, you want your back end doing about 35% of your overall revenue. Then once we get all of that optimized, now we want to continue scaling. Now we've got to start adding in other platforms. If we were just on Facebook and Instagram, now we need to get into Google Shopping. We need to get into YouTube. We need to get into Pinterest, which has been crushing it lately for most of our clients. We need to look at Snapchat or TikTok to start expanding your footprint and diversifying your platforms, and even looking on different platforms where we may be able to sell. So it's not just solely reliant on your website. So it's it's an ongoing process. And the beautiful thing is, with the way that we work on a performance basis, if we're not producing results, we're not making any money either, right? So, our goal and our obsession is just as much, if not more, but we really partner and almost act as that right-hand internal team. But you're getting people that are very specific in their field and level of expertise in different areas, and you're getting that for a cost less from an annual perspective than you going out and trying to hire one jack of all trades that usually ain't going to work in this new day and age of digital and all the moving pieces. You just pay one person salary, which would be way more than what you would pay like an agency like ours that would come in and work off a performance basis and really act as your right-hand team in all aspects of growing your brand. So there's a lot to it, unfortunately. Sure. But that's why we're here, and we're good at what we do. So,
well, what would you
awesome.
say as a piece of advice to the owner of an e-commerce brand that is feeling the feelings that you're describing? They're stressed out. They want to scale, they want to grow, they're having trouble. They've made changes within their website. They've tried to do, be that jack of all trades within their business. What is that first step that they can take to understand where they're at? And what would you say kind of as advice just for some peace of mind for those people?
The very first thing is narrow down what you're doing. Focus on one thing and start with that. And that could be if you've got a website up right now, right? Um, Start saying, okay, for me to understand if my website is even converting, because who knows, you may be getting quality traffic on your website. Maybe you're doing a lot of organic things, but your website has an issue at the checkout page, or it has an issue on the product page, or whatever it may be. It could be a lot of things. Maybe people just don't like the way it looks, but you don't know until you've got to start driving that quality traffic. So narrow it down and say, okay, if right now I've got that website up and going, all I'm going to do right now is focus on the platform that's best. Maybe that's Google. Maybe that's Facebook. Facebook and Instagram right now are still, even with these updates going on, I mean, they still provide the best opportunity for you online and from an advertising standpoint. That's why we start there a lot, but start going out and just start running ads and driving some traffic to the website. Start identifying where your most, where your biggest needs are, where your biggest problems are. So really narrow down your focus. And that's why whenever we start off having that strategy of, hey, we understand that we want to be here in 6 to 12 months. So you start off and you think about your goal. Hey, 6 months from now, I want to be at X number. I want to have 1,000 people in my database. I want to have my website converting at this number, this percentage, and I want to be investing or running ads on these platforms. And then reverse engineer back of, okay, now let's set up the steps of how we're going to get there. And normally that's going to start with, let's start very narrow, so we're not throwing a bunch of money at the wall. Let's not spread it across all these platforms. Let's just start really simply with one. Let's start driving. Let's get that optimized. Let's figure out Facebook and your audience on Facebook. Now let's figure out, once we get that audience going, you're starting to see the click-through rates, where you want them to be. You're starting to see your cost per click and your CPM numbers where you want to be. And you can Google a lot of what your industry benchmarks are for these if you're running them on your own, or, obviously you can reach out to people like us who can help you do that and talk to you about that. But once you start getting that, now it's okay. Now that I've got the acquisition part, I got people coming to my site. They're obviously, all the numbers are looking healthy from a Facebook standpoint. Now, what's my website converting at? Okay, well, it's not converting at the levels. It's converting very, very low for what it needs to be converting at. Okay, well, now let me put some focus on that. And you just break it down.
Sure.
And you start going in phases.
Solve one problem at a time.
One problem at a time. You start where you start at, and you just work your way to it. And then the biggest thing is you start to scale and you start investing tens of thousands or thousands of dollars or hundreds of dollars, wherever you're at in your business and what you need. At least that as you're starting to spend that money, at least you're taking them into something that is set up and ready to actually convert them into a customer.
Sure.
And you're not just spending money on campaigns that are driving it to a broken system, because all that's going to do is expose you faster. And you don't want that to happen either. So, test, break it down, simplify it. I mean, gosh, simplify it. There's so many things and so much noise out there whenever it comes to e-commerce, but it's the same principles that have worked for centuries. Business is business. It's just a different way of doing it. And right now, I think people, they just get caught up in all of these different options. And it's like, just simplify it and then strategically work up. So you're not just wasting money. You know exactly what you should get for each dollar you invest. You're going to get $4 out, utilizing and running paid campaigns on Facebook. Now how do we scale that? And it's a lot easier to do that.
Sure.
Whenever you know what your data is showing.
Yeah, you understand the game you're playing.
Oh, for sure.
Right.
Yeah, big difference.
Well, I
So
appreciate
that's
you. I appreciate you coming on and giving some clarity about, just that idea of e-commerce, because I think so many people kind of kick that around in their mind of like, I want to do this. I want to have one of those things online that churns out customers and makes money. But I'm interested in understanding the intricacies of that, and what it takes for those to be successful. And I'm sure a lot of our listeners are as well. So I appreciate the time that you've given us. Tell us, what you're looking for, how we can help. What type of introductions are you looking for?
yeah. And one thing, if you don't mind me just adding to something, for brands that are just starting off and all that, is just start putting out content. Don't even worry, if you don't have
For
money
sure.
to just start. If you've got an apparel business, just start every day taking a picture of you wearing your shirt. If you don't have other people to wear it for you, just do a video talking about why you started the business. Do a video on how it's made. If you have a certain way that you make your product, I mean, just start sharing stuff. Let people in behind the scenes, because ultimately, if you think about the difference between e-commerce and traditional methods, is that personal interaction. Well, person to person is still the top way to sell, right? And to get people bought into who you are and to make decisions to buy from you faster. Video is right there behind it. There's so many people I have relationships with I've never met in person, but I've done plenty of Zooms, or I've seen them on
Sure.
video. Just start creating content, post it to whatever platforms you want to post it to. The market's going to tell you what they like and they don't like, and you just start. That's the biggest thing as well that I can talk about. You'll
Sure.
start seeing crazy stuff happen when you just start. Don't overthink the content and just let people see what you got going on. So from our end, I mean, really, naturally, I just love providing value and talking with businesses, even if you're not sure. Like, schedule a call. You can go to linchpinsales.com, schedule a call. Our Misty, who will be the person that you talk to initially, is fantastic. We don't do hard sells. We don't do pitches. Like, if we can help you on that call, I want to help you, because we probably just gained a good audience member at that point. But I want people, even if you just have an e-commerce brand, you're starting off, you're not sure if it works within, like, just schedule the time and allow us to talk with you and make sure at least we can point you in the right direction, because we need to be confident that we can help you first and foremost. So go to linchpinsales.com. You can go to growmystorenow.com. That's going to have a lot of free just content. It's going to talk about our programs, if that is something, but it's going to have a lot of testimonials and people just talking about their journey with us and what we've been able to do for their brands online. So growmystorenow.com, especially if you're an e-commerce brand. If you're a smaller, if you're just a local business with a physical location looking for more foot traffic or leads, you can go to linchpinsales.com, and there's some drop downs where it'll take you to pages that have some good content. And always you can visit our YouTube channels, Facebook pages, where we post a lot of just valuable content, or at least what we hope and think is valuable.
Sure. Absolutely. So cool. I appreciate you coming on, man. It means a lot. I really do. I appreciate that. I appreciate the the advice and direction that you give our clients and our network, and I look forward to connecting you to some of those people. I think that you and your company would be a valuable resource to some of our connections.
I appreciate it, man. I appreciate you just reaching out and having me on. It's always an honor, and I'm extremely grateful just for these opportunities. So if there's anything I can do, obviously just reach out. But yeah, man, I just, I just
Well, we'll
want to see
get this
people
thing
see
out. I want to
success.
get a Braves game or a round of golf or something like that on the calendar for sure.
Shoot, man, let's do it.
I'm
You're
down.
never going to hear me turn down for that.
Cool.
Any of that. So yeah, let's definitely make it happen.
Cool. Works for me, man. I appreciate you.
Absolutely. No, thank you, man.
Thanks.